Okay, guys. I'm gonna try and make this kind of a short video for me anyway. So 10 minutes or less would be an extremely short video. I'll see what I can do. Anyway, I want to talk today about the war in Ukraine and our upcoming war in Russia. It is the end of March. It's like the 27th or 28th maybe. But here's what I think is going to happen. Most of the news that I can find coming out of the Russian-Ukraine war is 100% propaganda. And part of that is due to the fact that we used to have anti-propaganda laws so that you couldn't lie to the American people on TV or the news, call it information. But I think Bill Clinton got rid of the Glass-Steagall Act, and so they're free to propagandize the Americans now, just in case you weren't aware. But what I've been seeing is that there's no actual footage of the fighting, first of all, which I find to be extremely weird, because when I was a kid and we did Operation Desert Storm, I remember my parents and I, we went to a Wednesday night church meeting or something, or maybe it was a Sunday night. I don't know. I was a kid, but they were having a church meeting in the basement, and mostly it was just a potluck. And I think we were praying for our soldiers and going to war and stuff. But on the news that night, when we launched the invasion, there was all kinds of footage, live footage, supposedly anyway, of the attack and the fighting. And you could see gunfire, you could see the tracers, it was on night vision, you could see explosions and rockets and tanks mobilizing and jets and all this stuff. And I remember there was a lot of war footage that night, the first night of the invasion. Later, when I was a little older, living in my own apartment, I was at a friend's house when we launched our shock and awe campaign to supposedly retaliate for the attack on the Twin Towers, which that's a whole video by itself. But once again, tons and tons and tons of live video feed of the attack, and you could see buildings being bombed, you could see gunfire, the night vision, the tracers and everything. You could see all the fighting real time, supposedly. But now, when everybody has a phone with them at all times, and you can easily pull it out and start recording, there's never any footage of this actual fighting. There's always a report that it had just ended. It was super, super intense, but it's over now. And, the fighting, it was like an hour ago or something like that. And here we are reporting, and all that's left is maybe a smoking crater, usually not even that. But just my point being that there's no live footage, there's no real footage of any fighting happening. And that seems very strange to me when everybody has a camera now. And just very, very weird. There should be a lot more footage of actual war, in my opinion. This, along with the fact that these stories coming from the war of, supposedly like tens of thousands of Russian troops dead, supposedly high-level military officials in Russia quitting their job, although they don't mention any names or who it was that quit or what position. They just say, it was a general or, someone very high up, like a second in command or something. It's who was it? Who quit? Give me a name. tell me who it actually was. And like the stories about the war are being just debunked. The ghost of Kiev is a total lie. There is no jet pilot out there shooting down Russian planes. It's been debunked. The Snake Island guys who supposedly flipped off the battleship and then got bombed, no, they actually were all captured alive. They may have flipped off the ship. I'm not saying that didn't happen, but those brave soldiers on Snake Island did not lose their lives. They surrendered. Supposedly Sam Hyde is over there fighting. And if you know anything about media pranks, Sam Hyde, whenever his name comes up, you know that it's a BS story. Sam Hyde was a reporter who photoshopped himself into, extremely compromising situations or whatever like that. And I don't even know if Sam Hyde is a real name, but I know that now if you find Sam Hyde anywhere on any report, that you can write it off as garbage. Just things like this really make me think that none of this war that we're experiencing is actually happening. It's all excuses and false flags. Now, I'm not saying there isn't fighting over there, because there is. It's just not what we're being told. And so, if there's a little bit of a lie, then there's probably a lot more lying happening. And I mean, once again, we're allowed to propagandize the American people now. And if you know anything about the history of TV and news and media in America, then you know that the CIA and other intelligence agencies are all up in it. And, I think that's also a big reason why we're not hearing anything else about all of these Hollywood actors going to Baby Rape Island. What was the guy's name? Epstein? We're not hearing anything else about Hollywood. And if there's anything the American people hate, it's pedophiles. And they usually die very quickly in general population in prison once people realize who they are. Even hardened criminals hate pedophiles. But, over in Hollywood and all the CIA agents over there and, all the compromised stars and officials in office, we're not hearing anything else about that anymore. What I think is happening is Russia is in a Cuban Missile Crisis type situation where NATO is right on their doorstep, and Kiev is like less than 10 minutes airspace from Moscow. And so if they wanted to launch weapons from there, it doesn't even have to be nukes. It can, just any missiles from Kiev, it would be in Moscow literally before there was any time to retaliate. And so, everyone in Russia should be concerned about that. And I think, Putin has already said that that NATO needs to pull out and back off, and they need to stop trying to have a presence so close to Russia. And actually, he had already said this when they were still in the Baltic states, before they even got anywhere near Ukraine. And so he has already stated publicly that if NATO forces did not back off, that he was going to kick them out of the area, and that's what he's doing. And from what I can gather, Putin is fighting a very careful war because he recognizes a lot of the people in Ukraine as former Russian citizens, or at least of the former Russian Empire. And so he does not want to kill what would be his people if Ukraine was still his state. I don't know if he's trying to conquer it, but Um, he's not trying to kill civilians, it really seems. And that's why this war is taking so long, or why the Russian military is taking so long to achieve their goals, supposedly. It's because one of the only countries in the world that goes around indiscriminately murdering civilians to achieve their goals is America. And, I mean, you know, probably going to get some hate for that, but listen, who is the only country in the world to launch nuclear weapons and destroy entire cities? I'll wait. Go ahead. Think about it. And actually, when when Russia was still part of the USSR, and their soldiers and their defense had orders to launch nuclear weapons at America in retaliation, if certain conditions were met, guess what? Those conditions were met, and the soldiers in charge of those nuclear weapons refused to launch them because they knew that it would be the destruction of the entire earth. And fortunately they didn't, because it was it wasn't nuclear war at the time. Otherwise it would have been, and we'd probably all be dead right now, or living in a Fallout style planet. But anyway, what I think is happening now is we are continuing to ramp up the anti-Russia rhetoric. And I really can't believe that my fellow Americans are so gullible and they're just swallowing all of it after being lied to about 2 years about the nature of COVID. And starting to wake up even. But so we can't go to war with Russia right now because we don't really have any business. It's a border dispute between Russia and somebody else. But we're looking for an excuse, I feel like, and we will be in a hot war with Russia probably before the end of the year is out, if you want my opinion. We will have boots on the ground. We will be attempting to invade anyway. I don't know what you guys think of Russia, but from everything I've gathered over the years, they are some hardcore, pretty strong people, and they are not the fat, lazy, stupid people that I see Americans turning into. So, check your misconceptions and double check your enemy before you attack. And here's the thing. Whether or not it goes to nuclear war, what war has been about in America for my entire lifetime, looking back now? From what I can tell, we've never advanced democracy. We've never won a war in my lifetime. We've never completed any stated military objectives in my lifetime. We just fight these long, drawn-out, dragged-out wars where we never get anywhere. We never win. We never complete the objective, supposedly. But what I think the real objective is just the murder of patriots. And that's it. It's just to sacrifice the patriots who would stand up to those in office and demand that those who are currently leading this country at all levels of leadership. I want to point out, I'm not just talking about the president or his cabinet. I'm talking about governors, senators, representatives, all these corrupt people. Those who would have the stomach and the anger to do something about the evil injustices that these people perpetrate on the American public. You send them off to war to die in some other country. And that's it. That's what it's about. And that is why, more than anything else, I feel like we're gonna be in a hot war. We're gonna have boots on the ground and sending soldiers over, and we might even reinstate the draft, from what I'm hearing. Don't be surprised. So that's my little prediction for the future. We'll see if I'm right. I sure hope I'm not. But that's the only reason to go to war, is to kill the patriots, to kill the young men who have the balls to stand up and fight. And they think they're going over there fighting for somebody's rights. They think they're going over there protecting somebody. But the only point is to just take the fighters and kill them. Take the patriots and kill them. So there's my 2 cents. If you're watching this right now, if you thought about joining the army or whatever, don't do it. Don't join the military forces. And it hurts me to say that, because I have a lot of family who were in the army and the military forces going all the way back to the First World War. And believe me, every one of them did it for love of their country, and because they thought they saw evil in other parts of the world, and they weren't just going to stand by and let it happen. So they were trying to fight evil, but you don't need to look that far to find evil that needs to be challenged and addressed. So unfortunately, everybody I see, they're too lazy to look into anything. They're too lazy and complacent. Even if they do know the truth, they're not going to stand up for their own rights, for anyone else's rights. They're just going to let whatever happens happen, and just try and keep their head down and not get run over. But the global elites, I hate calling them elite because they're not, they're just people. They refer to the 99% of us, they refer to everyone else as the useless eaters. That's all we are. We're useless, and we just eat. We just consume. And so they want to get rid of us, as many of us as possible. And I'm not even writing Putin out of that crowd, because he's been to Davos, he's been to the World Economic Forum meetings. He is a young global leader of Klaus Schwab. And these are the evil people who are calling us useless eaters and trying to kill as many of us as possible so that they can inherit the earth. And really, the only thing that's going to stop them is if the 99% just find some balls and stand up to them and say no. And it doesn't even take all 99%, because the American Revolutionary War was fought by 5% of Americans. That's it. Just 5% of the people that were here. And it does not take a majority to prevail. Only an irate minority keen on setting brush fires of freedom in the minds of men. So John Adams said that. And you know what? He's right. It only takes 5% to overthrow the greatest empire in the world. And I think it would take less than 5% today, because I think people are way more lazy and complacent than they were, 200 years ago, when you literally had to fight every day to survive, or you would die. You had to fight the population of natives that were here. You had to fight the soldiers of Great Britain. You had to fight the wildlife that was here. So 1% to match the 1%. I think that's all it would take. Just find your balls, do some work, make yourself aware of what's going on. It's not that hard to find truth. It's not that hard to realize what a lie is. And then once you see who's lying and what they're lying about, it's pretty easy to deduce the truth. And nobody with a thinking mind and a connection to the internet has any excuse for ignorance. So, those are my thoughts for tonight. I hope they reach somebody out there. Have a good one. I'll talk to you later.